interview for the Story of a Lifetime project. The Story of a Lifetime project isn't about interviewing somebody who has the most interesting story or who is a famous person, though we're starting with you, John. The Story of a Lifetime is based on the premise that everybody, every single person in this room has had remarkable events in your life. And it's a way to share them in order for us to better know who each other is, in order to build community, our community, right here at Goddard House. So, over the course of the next weeks, we'll be interviewing, and by me I mean myself, Liz Kelly, Anna Wolin, Jennifer perhaps, we'll be interviewing both staff and residents alike. One person featured weekly to find a little bit more about your life, the story of your lifetime. Today, we're honored to have John Moniz, our executive director, as our guest for the first interview. And I just want to say, the questions for this interview have been pre-prepared. They're all fun and respectful and designed to be interesting, we hope. And at the end of today, we'll have an opportunity for the audience to ask a couple of questions as well. But we'll begin by finding out a little bit about John's life, background, experiences, views on the world, and his history. So I'm going to start right in and just say that we're really happy to have you here, John. You've brought about so much great change at Goddard House in a record period of time over this last year. It's amazing. So, the story of your lifetime. What is your full name? Do you have a middle name, nickname? And is there any story about how you got your name?
Thank you, Jenny. So my full name is John Moniz III. No middle name. None of my siblings have middle names. My parents don't have middle names, which is kind of interesting coming from a family with a Portuguese background. So my grandfather that's still alive, he's John Moniz Sr., my father, and myself.
You're the youngest son.
Yes, and I'm the oldest grandson out of maybe 16.
Yeah, no nicknames.
No.
Did you ever have a nickname?
I guess the only nickname I would have would be Johnny.
Yeah.
I think that would be the nickname.
John, tell us a little bit about where you were born. What was your neighborhood like? What was the place that you grew up in like? You could share a little bit about that with us.
Neighborhood. Well, I did not live in a neighborhood. I grew up on a farm in Rhode Island, about a mile from the main road, and in between my house was cornfields, and so I lived there all my life. The dairy farm business started in the early 1900s, and that was on my grandmother's side of the family. And on my grandfather's side, my grandparents both purchased property that abutted the dairy farm. And so they, in maybe the early 60s or so, opened a hog farm. And when I was growing up, we had about 5,000 hogs on the farm. So 5,000 hogs. Yeah. So my father and my grandfather every week would probably bring what they call feeder pigs, or pigs that weigh anywhere about 200 pounds or so to Pennsylvania, to Lancaster, would send them to auction, and then would bring back the corn and the feed. I also, I worked on the farm, probably up until maybe college or so. I played football. That was probably the only sport that I played. I played a little bit of baseball, but that was it. So growing up, in a rural town in Rhode Island, near the water, was a really nice experience.
It's one of my favorite places in the world where you grew up. Tiverton, Rhode Island, right?
Right.
Wow, it's beautiful there. Maybe we can take a trip there someday. Not too
Well, we
far
have,
away.
right?
Yep, the staff has, yes. I wanted to ask you a little bit, John, about work. Now, we know what your job is here at Goddard House, and we know that that job takes many, many talents. There's many, 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 many aspects to it. But what kind of other jobs, paid or unpaid work? What type of other work? What type of other work have you held in your life, paid or unpaid? And is there a kind of work that you've done in your life that might surprise us? And is there any kind of work, any kind of job that you might fantasize you'd like to do someday?
Wow.
Okay, I guess I have to start being on the farm. My grandmother, she paid me maybe $100 a week or so. I had responsibilities, and I was probably driving tractors when I was in elementary grade. And had responsibilities at that young of an age. And then I would say my first job, maybe when I was about 15 and a half, just on the weekend, was a busboy at a Ramada Inn. And I also worked at Bickford's as a host, maybe my freshman year of high school a little bit. And so from there, I went to school in Providence, and my uncle owned a gas station, and I worked there as a cashier a little bit, and then I decided to get into the restaurant business. So I kind of stayed with that for a little bit, but when I left Johnson & Wales after about 2 years, I decided to, cooking wasn't made for me, or I wasn't made for cooking, I guess. Just because I sweat way too much. It had nothing to do about my culinary skills. It's because I sweat way too much. So I decided to see what else was out there, and that's when I kind of got into the healthcare arena. When I was probably about 21 years old, I took a medical terminology class with my mom, and from there on I took a CNA class, which majority of our PCAs are CNAs, and then I kind of worked up the ranks. One interesting job that you probably all don't know is that I was given the opportunity, I did quality assurance on workers' comp injuries from home, and I was actually living in Salt Lake, but the company was based in Rhode Island. Well, they allowed me to go back to school or training to be a flight attendant. So I was a flight attendant for Delta Connection, ASA, for, I would say, almost a year, I guess. And I had kind of two jobs, but I was able to, see a lot of things. And the thing with a smaller airline, the Delta Connection, is that when I had 50 passengers on that flight, I was the only flight attendant on. And so I have one story, I guess. We were landing, I think it was in Oklahoma City. And you're on this 50-passenger plane, and you're going down, and everything's usually pretty, but when you hear that, when you see that light that the captain wants you to pick up the phone after the plane literally went down and then up, and then you see the light, well, that larger air carrier kind of cut us off, and we kind of, so we're very close call of a little accident on the runway. But so that was kind of a little bit of a eye-opening experience. But I really did enjoy my flight attendant days.
Where did you fly to?
So just primarily, Delta was based in Atlanta, so I was in Atlanta for a little bit, and then in Salt Lake City. So I lived in Salt Lake City for 4 years. I also lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for 4 years.
You really get around. That's all I can say. You, I want to ask you a different question. Who is an older person, or more than one even, that's great, that's inspired you, influenced you in your life?
Well, I have to say that was a really, since I knew some of these questions and I thought about that question, and, you know, the typical question is, you know, I surrounded myself, I have a great family. So that's just a given. So I can't really pinpoint one particular person. And then I said, okay, who else could I, well, I've had some great teachers that I could say something about. But I think it's been all my years in assisted living and in long-term care when I've gotten to really know some of the residents and the stories, and you know, and hearing their adventures has been really motivating to me to work myself up to a position where I'm at now. So I think I can't really say one, you know. My parents, my mom was very supportive with anything that I wanted to do. So, and our family are pretty largely entrepreneurs, and, you know, so, you know, you just give it your best. And I think it has a lot to do with the work ethic. So, I mean, that was instilled into me as a young boy.
So, a big family, other communities that surrounded you, working, driving a tractor since you were at grammar school, all that has influenced you. Are there any other, you talk about work ethic, and even before you came here, that was something that was mentioned about you. John has a strong work ethic, and one of the many attributes. Along with, can you just say something about how that showed itself in your family? We know that the farm must have produced a huge amount of that, but just maybe say a little bit about that work ethic.
Well, I guess, you know, I can remember my grandmother waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning to pasteurize milk, and just not going, you know, she'd sometimes go to bed at 7, but she would work hard all day from the early times in the morning and go right until to the evening. And that was to have breakfast and lunch and dinner for all of her children and grandchildren. So, I mean, I think that's where we, you know, and it's not like a 5-day-a-week business, you know, from 8 to 5, 9 to 5. It's
No, 7 days.
7-day business, and it's no vacation sometime, and you know, it's a little bit, it's different now a little bit, but it's really, I think it's just in my blood to kind of work. I always kind of keep myself busy, and that's why I don't think I have a problem if I need to cook or if I need to serve to get the job done. Then I'll do it to the best of my abilities.
then do you do for fun? And going back, like, what did you do for fun as a kid? What did you do for fun as a teenager? And today, even, what do you do for fun? Maybe a chronology of that.
Thanks, Jenny. So,
Too much.
so I was kind of a rebellious child in a way. I think when I was in those middle school years, I definitely can, with, you know, I have the two boys, and Jesse, our 10-year-old, you know, he's very similar to me in the way of his wants. And as a kid, I had the three-wheelers and the dirt bikes. But we did spend some time with kind of down the road friends of ours that had what we called field cars, and there might be 2 or 3 field cars that we would just try to flip over. So that was kind of like, and you know, Jesse's probably never heard that story, but that was kind of, you know, some of my passing times throughout those years. And then, you know, going to college, and I really loved and had a passion for food, so I really kind of tried different food experiences, which then allowed me to want to travel. I think food was the base of where I would like to travel. So so then that opened up a whole realm of where I would like to travel throughout these past years.
What's your favorite place that you've been to in your travels? And I know there may not be one, but one that really stands out, and maybe a little story related to that.
Well, I guess it's gonna. I've been to Spain twice, so I think one of my travels, the first trip to Barcelona, was really eye-opening. To be there and kind of, you know, it's a city where you walk all over, and the adventure that I took while I was there, we went to Sitges, which is, you'd get on a train, and it's a Mediterranean beach town, similar to a place on the Cape, and I think there, you know, I really found myself kind of relaxing and just really taking in life. I think the pace was a lot different than what I was used to. So, and then the whole idea of eating at 10 o'clock at night and tapas in the, you know, there's just all the cultural things that Europeans have. And so that was such a great experience for my first trip to Europe. And then my second trip, when we went to Madrid, we stayed in Madrid for a little while, and then we went into the mountains of Spain. And we stayed at these small towns and villages, and that was really an experience to really go up into these villages, into the mountains, and the roads were so narrow, and so that was kind of a fun time. But I'm really looking forward to my trip in April. So
Okay, a little bit.
so we'll be traveling to London over the kids' April vacation. So on that Friday we'll land in London, and I take the kids to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So we'll be going to the theater that evening. That Saturday evening, actually, we land in the morning, and then Michael flies in on Monday, and on Wednesday we get to go to Paris. We're taking the train to Paris, and Michael is coaching an adult figure skating team, and he's a competitor on the team, and the U.S. figure skating have invited them to participate, and so we're really actually going for that trip, for that competition in Paris. So that will end our trip. So I'll be coming back on that Monday. But the best part about it is we're taking my mother along. So it's perfect. It'll be perfect because she's already volunteered to watch the kids so that we can see what the nights will bring us. So it's going to be an adventure.
An adventure. You know, you're such an enthusiast about life. I think, you know, you've made a lot of things, adventures, and you've been an enthusiast. You've made our world larger, I think, here at Goddard House for all of us. I don't know if other people agree, but I really believe, because I've seen that happen. There's so many things you care about and are so involved in life. What's something that, John, that's made you really happy in life? One thing that's brought you happiness, or just made you say, "Whew, this is wonderful."
Well, I think it's being married and having 2 children and having everything that everyone else sort of has. I mean, I think, and we've worked very hard to get what we've wanted, and so I think that to go home. Leaving here, I don't go home. It's leaving here, I'm going to the skating rink, or I'm going to the pool to pick up a child, or a meeting with Michael in the city, and having dinner out. We don't spend that much time at home. We do spend some good quality time. Lance, over the holidays, gave me a basket full of popcorn, and we do have our movie nights, and it was just kind of neat to make some popcorn and watch a movie at home too. So, but during the week, it's a really, the kids keep us busy. So, but I thrive on that. So,
you know, along with that, early on when you were at Goddard House, I was sitting next to you at a meeting, and I noticed you sketching something, and I looked and I went, "Oh, you're a really good artist." And you are, and I just wondered about that, but I also wondered about, we have many people in this room who are interested in different forms of the arts. And what type of arts are you interested in? What's inspired you or interested you? It can be any art form.
is that on the list, Jenny? Is that really on the list? So, right there on the top. So, I definitely like going to a good show or a good musical, but I do like architecture quite a bit. So, and I think in my travels, I always take that piece in and think about how that could be incorporated into an assisted living, or how I can incorporate it into my outdoor living space. So, I think that's like a passion of mine. Am I a person to go to a museum and take that in? Not so much. I think that's more my husband, because I have to be going, and he'd rather just be there taking it all in. I'm more the person that wants to be part of it and kind of want to see what I can do to bring it back home, or so.
Thanks. If what events, to kind of bring it out a little broader, what events in the world, or what world event, or even statewide event, local event, some event in history, what's had an impact on you? Or inspired you or influenced you?
What event? So it's kind of interesting. You're really getting to know me a little bit personally, which is kind of interesting. When I decided to come out, and I think that was a big event for me. I think I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I had a friend that was a physical therapist that invited me to go with him to what they call Pride. And what really moved me at that event was two men that got up there from New Jersey that was fighting the state. So this is going back maybe 15, 20 years maybe, that they won. And because the state didn't think they were fit to adopt a child. And so, and I think about that was such a turning point in my life, because I realized that, you know what, you could live a normal, sort of a normal life with having children and having a family and doing everything else. So that's when I realized that it was time for me to have that. And so I just decided to that was a huge moment in my life, I think. Myrtle Beach, way back when, and you know, Ellen DeGeneres' mom was there, and she was a motivating speaker for me too, and so it was kind of neat. Oh, and another, speaking about Ellen DeGeneres, so that was another, so I was on the Ellen show about 10 years ago. I was there for when she does her holiday giveaways. So I was there on her final day.
Ellen DeGeneres?
On Ellen DeGeneres,
Yeah.
right, on the Ellen show. And she gave us segways, so that those are the things that you could stand on and go around. So that was kind of an exciting time, too, to be part of the Ellen show.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a fun show.
That was
So we
cool.
kind of flew out to Long Beach and went to Burbank and went to the show there. So.
Thank you for sharing that. You know, I think of you both as well, from my vantage point of age, as a younger person, but you're also an incredibly experienced person. What do you have? Do you have any advice on life for younger people coming up in the world?
Speaking to the light.
We have a number of people, you know, working here in their 20s, starting careers, but also you have kids. You know, you mentioned Jesse, and I know he does a lot of skating, and he's out there in the world. What advice do you have for younger people in this changing world today?
I think don't be afraid to move on. Get what you can get, learn what you can learn, and move on. Because that's the only way. I think when I look at my experience, you know, I can pull my experience when I worked on the farm into an assisted living. I can pull the experience as in the culinary aspect. I can pull the CNA aspect into the business, which, you know, even the farm, you could say, is part of the engineering or the mechanics of our maintenance department. So, but I've been a person that I haven't been in a job, you know, no longer than 2 or 3 years in the same title position, but maybe at the same company, and I kind of just moved myself up. Mm-hmm. So I think my advice would be to get what you need to get, learn, and then move on. Make a commitment to learn, but then to move on.
Thank you. I want to open up questions now, so our audience can ask a couple questions. These things that might be on your mind, something that John said, something you might be wondering about. But does anybody here have a question that you'd like to ask John for his story of a lifetime? Staff, you too.
I'd like to know what Michael's career is, what he does,
Oh.
and also if he is the person who inspired you to have the kids compete in is it ice skating?
In figure skating?
It's one child. Is that
Two.
Jesse?
We have two. Well, yes,
Yeah,
one that skates.
Jesse's into ice
Right.
skating.
Yep.
And what is your other boy into?
Right now he's he's swimming.
Swimming.
John,
Okay.
can you repeat the question?
Great.
So Clement wanted to know a little bit about Michael. So it's kind of interesting. When I met Michael, he worked in the corporate realm. And about 2 years into our relationship, we're coming back from Connecticut, where he grew up. And, you know, he thought about going back to become an attorney, to the GREs, or you know, all these other tests, the MBA, and he went to Babson. And so I'm like, we stopped. I said, what do you want to do? If, you know, we can handle it, just tell me, what do you want to do? So he's like, I want to teach. So that, I got home, I got on my computer, and I found a great program called the Boston Teacher Residency Program. And it's a very competitive program to get in. And so now he's teaching in the Boston Public School as a special educator, a leader in a leadership position this past year. And he just loves his career. And Jesse and his figure skating, it shocked both of us because that's something. Michael was a national competitor, dance figure skater. So and he would come from Connecticut to skate at the Skating Club of Boston. And really, we just signed Jesse up just for basic skills, just to learn how to skate. Well, no, he was doing lacrosse and soccer and these other flag football, and he just found his passion, you know, a year ago that figure skating is it. You know, I'm so proud that, I mean, he's spending 5 or 6 days a week training, 2 hours a day, 2 50-minute sessions, and he does some off-ice training, and I have to say, to be a proud father if I didn't, you know, he's landing an axle, which it's like 1.5 revolutions in the air or something. Michael would kill me if I didn't explain what the jumps were. But then he's also now landing 2 double jumps, a double sow cow and a double toe. So, I mean, the kid is just talented, and it's so nice that he's passionate about it. But now Michael has rekindled his love of skating, and now he's coaching, and he's on a team, and so it's become a skating family. And Anthony he's loving the swimming. He goes every Monday, and he's in class, and he'll if he wants to continue, you know, he'll be allowed to continue. But let me tell you, it's expensive having kids.
Anybody? Thank you. Anybody else? Question? Question for John. Hold on. Let me bring you the mic before you ask the question. Thank you.
John, since you're so familiar with a lot of sports and also with people who are older, I wonder what sports you think are best to learn as a child that will be something that you can continue to participate in throughout the rest of your life. And especially if they are things that also have performances like skating,
Right.
but other things too that you'd be able to keep in shape the rest of your life because you grew up doing that sport.
Right. That's kind of a challenging question, I think, because I'm not in the best shape. But I am very impressed now that I'm becoming the skating dad, is that there are lots of adult skaters doing it because they love it, but doing it for physical fitness. And over the holiday, I bought Michael for Christmas is a actual spin bike, and and it has a 21-inch screen on this spin bike, and you're doing a live class, and it feels like you're in the class. You're in the middle of we have it kind of off in the kitchen area, so it's not in the bedroom being used as where I would hang up my clothes. But it's really, I think, going to the gym, I think the swimming, I think is really, I see a lot of that at the pool. So I think swimming is probably one of the sports that really would keep you fit into your 80s, 90s. I think I had someone at Cadbury that was, I think, 100 that went to the pool.
Mm-hmm.
So I think swimming is definitely one of those sports. Doris, what's my favorite drink?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Go.
You want to hear my favorite drink? I like a really dirty gin martini. Gin. It has to be gin. No, gin.
What's the dirt?
Just the olive juice. It has to be really salt.
If you, in a fantasy world, if you could cook us a dinner,
Oh, my.
all of her, because you love the culinary arts and food, if you could cook us a dinner, like, just from your imagination, that would be something wonderful that you'd like to share with us, what would you like to serve?
That was not a question.
With the drink. Because we'd have your drink too.
You know, I do like a really nice medium rare steak fritz. Just something really. It doesn't have to be anything exciting, but I really do like that. And I'm a real fanatic with oysters. So oysters are my love. I think for New Year's Eve, between Michael and I and the kids, I think we went through like 40 oysters. It was like ridiculous.
It's a good thing you're going to France, because that's where, families sit down, they say, oh, we'll order 72 oysters. So
Really?
Yeah, it's never 6 or 12, it's always the big numbers.
Well, talking about oysters, we usually go to the vineyard for our summer vacation, and I have to say, when you go to Menemsha and you can get an oyster for $1, that's my kind of oyster too. So fresh and cheap.
They have that down the street at Matt Murphy's Pub in Brookline Village. On Mondays and Tuesdays they have $1 oyster night. So
There we go.
you might want to work late. We have time for one more question before we wrap up the story of John's lifetime.
Any good?
What is? Oh, hold on, Museum.
Oh, monsieur,
Just the steak.
just the steak.
Hello. John, how many siblings do you have, and how do you rate in the family amongst your siblings?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Okay, so I have 2 younger sisters. I have a sister that's 2 years younger than me, and then I have a sister that is about 7 years younger. So I'm the oldest, and I probably get along with my sister that's closest to my age. My younger sister is a woman of her own mind. We're probably a lot alike. So, but I definitely probably high on the list. I think I'm treated quite well. Maybe they could get a little jealous. Being the only boy.
You're the only boy?
I'm the only boy in my family of, I have 2 younger sisters. I'm the only boy.
I spotted one.
So, I'm the oldest, so.
Wow. Yeah.
Do they have families?
Oh, and they do. So, my sister Cynthia has a little girl named Livia, which was named after my grandmother. And her middle name is Rose, which is named after my mother. And she is 2 years old. And my other sister has a little boy named Sonny, and he's 4 years old.
Honey.
Sonny. So, Italian. She married into an Italian family. So.
One last question. This is the last one. Faye, I'm going to pass you the mic.
It's not a question, it's something that you said that I hope to remember. Move it on, move on. You've succeeded in whatever in life and you've done your thing, now move on. I think when we get to different ages, but as we're aging, what happens is we lose our curiosity and our interest, therefore we lose our enthusiasm. Life starts to have no meaning. We forgot to move on. It's not the end because we're no longer in the career we were in or what we enjoyed and were successful at, but that move on, fabulous. It'll keep me awake tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Might even be a logo for a new advertising
I
campaign.
know.
Goddard House, move on. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, this is really wonderful. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
So what you just shared with us demonstrates what we hope to do next week or the following week. I'm not sure we'll have this group next week because of the Out to Brunch Bunch
Yes.
kickoff. I don't know if that will be, but the next interview that we'll conduct, we'll want to have a resident interview the interview. So does anybody here, just off the cuff, would anybody volunteer to be interviewed for our second Story of a Lifetime group? Anybody? You can feel free to raise your hand because anyone. Would anyone like to give it a try?
Hey,
Oh,
You
Catherine,
said-
first finger up.
Catherine.
Catherine, great. We'll let you take a look at the questions and speak with you about it later in the group. It will be next Thursday or the following Thursday. We have to clarify that. But thank you so much, and we hope to hear from everybody over these upcoming weeks. Thanks. Any parting words?
who's going to be the interviewer?
Who's going to be the interviewer?
We'll see. We'll talk.
We haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, we haven't.
Okay, no. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying some of the good food that's coming out of that kitchen.
Sure are, sure are. Thank you so much.
It's good. Oh, good. Good.
Thank you. Oh, that was great. That was great.
Yes, we
I
did.
want to thank you.
Oh, thank you.
She's at the door.
Very good, thank you.
I said my daughter.